greetings and welcome to all fellow learners of the subject refresher course in environmental education. My specialization is making use of environmental ethics and education for the sake of the conservation of nature. I have done PhD in wildlife sciences and I am also a member of the IUCN Commission of Education and Communication. I have many popular articles and publications in the area of environmental conservation. Now, before we look at sustainable development, it is important that we also learn the very vital connection between development and natural resources. As you know, development is the right to every living human being, and good quality of life is a prerequisite for all human beings. On the basis of birth, caste, color, region, nationality, the right to development cannot be denied to anybody. Today, in the modern times, development depends upon the exhaustion of natural resources, because this development is materialistic and has given rise to a consumeristic society. The story of this modern development began with the Industrial Revolution in Europe. You would all know the very interesting incident of one young boy named James Watt sitting in front of a kettle in his mother's kitchen and realizing the power of steam when he saw the boiling water moving the lid of the kettle as if it is being raised by some unseen hand. This power of the steam engine that unleashed the Industrial Revolution on the planet Earth has been the fountainhead and the rolling rock for all development in the area of materialism and giving rise to a consumeristic society since the 18th century, when it all happened in Europe and then spread to the whole world with colonialism. It is difficult to say whether colonialism was the cause of the effect of Industrial Revolution or Industrial Revolution was the cause of the effect of colonialism. However, the two progressed with each other, because to keep the herds of the Industrial Revolution, the turbines, the factories, the manufacturing units, it was important to keep exhausting the natural resources of the earth. When these were exhausted in one shores, the colonialists, they moved forward to the other shores of the world. This is how today we have a uniform pattern of development. However, we do not have uniform development of all peoples, societies and countries in the world, because we still have some developing countries and some developed countries. Now, because this development has completely depended on natural resources, we need to look at what types of natural resources are available on the planet Earth. Natural resources are of two types: renewable and non-renewable. Renewable resources are such which are existing in the earth in the form of any cycle. Say for example, wood. You can cut wood from a tree and then you can plant another tree. So, in some time you will have replaced that tree which you have utilized. However, there are some other types of resources which are available in the crust of the earth and which are there in very limited quantity. Say for example, all the metals and minerals like iron, steel, bauxite, graphite, which are there in limited quantities and they have a finite value. So, for sustainable development, we have to make use of these resources that are available in an infinite condition very carefully, because no matter how gradually we use them, how slowly we utilize them, someday or the other these resources will be finished. On the other hand, we have the renewable resources. These are such resources that can be given rise to they regenerate and renew on their own. But please keep in mind that it is not possible to make use of these resources in an indiscriminate manner, because they also need proper time and proper space for their regeneration. I will give you an example. We do understand that after cutting the forest, we get new forest, but it takes at least 30 to 50 years for the new forest to replace the old forest that has been deforested. Now, if very quick and indiscriminate deforestation continues, the whole face of the earth will be denuded, and that might result in a water crisis, because all the rivers, they are going through the water, the forests help in evapotranspiration, and we have better rainfall because of the forests, and all the soil, the fertile soil which is used in agriculture, will also be eroded. So, whether it is renewable resources or it is non-renewable resources, it is important that we practice some care and some caution, because if we are not careful with these resources, very soon there will be a complete crisis of natural resources, which might also jeopardize the very existence of mankind and other life on this planet. Friends, that is why the concept of sustainable development was coined by the United Nations. As you know, the United Nations is an agency of the world community, and when after the effects of the Industrial Revolution, it was seen that there is so much degradation of nature and natural resources, it was realized that now it is time to change the entire pattern of sustainable development. Now, let us look at the definition of sustainable development and its goals. This is relatively a new term. It was coined in 1987, and it also met some criticism, keeping in view the idea that when there are some resources that are of completely non-renewable quality, then how can any development tapping into these resources be sustainable? However, the most overarching and the most widely accepted definition of sustainable development was given by a report of the Brundtland Commission in 1987, and the report was titled Our Common Future. According to this definition, sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Hence, two key concepts are contained in this definition. The concept of needs, in particular, the essential needs of the world's poor, to which overriding priority should be given, and the idea of limitations imposed by the state of technology and social organization on the environment's ability to meet present and future needs. Now, after this definition was given in 1987, as you all know, that the Millennium Development Goals were set. Later on, these were replaced by the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. It was decided that the world community will come together, and in about 15 years' time, the 17 goals of sustainable development will be met. So, this happened in 2015, and they are known as SDGs 2015. According to this, the first aim of sustainable development is to fight for eradicating poverty. As you know, friends, the definition has already stated that there should be intergenerational equity as well as intragenerational equity. Now, it certainly looks like a very tall order, because in this world there are a lot of inequalities. There are haves and have-nots, There are people who are living in abject poverty, whereas on the other hand, there are people who are leading luxurious lives. The first aim of sustainable development targets to include eradicating extreme poverty, implementing social protection measures, and ensuring equal access of men and women to economic resources. Because ultimately, it is the exploitation of these economic resources that are found in nature in their natural condition, which brings about all development. So to set what was wrong in development and make it sustainable, it is important that the first target of no poverty is met. The second target, according to these 17 goals, is zero hunger. Ending hunger, achieving food security, and improving nutrition and promoting sustainable agriculture. Now, we can do that only when we take care of the environment, we protect biodiversity, we protect food diversity, and we are able to provide good and nutritious food to every individual of the community in our family of humanity. The third target is of good health and well-being. As you know, good medical health should be a basic right of all human beings, regardless of where they live. They should ensure healthy lives and promote well-being at all ages. This includes reducing maternal mortality, ending preventable child deaths, ending or reducing AIDS and other diseases, universal health coverage, affordable essential medicines, sexual and reproductive health care, vaccine research, and access to medicines. The fourth goal is quality education. Now, this is an area where the teacher educators, who are the target of this refresher course on this platform, they can play a very important role, ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities of all, and this targets to include universal access to free quality pre-primary, primary and secondary education, improving vocational skills, equal access to education, expanding educational facilities, scholarships, and the training of teachers. The fifth and one of the most important goals is, of course, gender equality, so that all women and girls are empowered to take their own decisions, to decide whether they will reproduce or not, how much and when. And this kind of empowerment will come only when gender discrimination is done away with. There should be access to reproductive health care and equal access of women to all economic resources, including jobs and employment. We also have to end violence against women and girls, and we have to value unpaid care and domestic work. So this discrimination that is very prevalent in all human societies on the basis of gender has to end, and only then we will have complete sustainable development. Clean water and sanitation. As you know, India in the present millennium has placed a lot of emphasis on sanitation of clean, neat and hygienic surroundings, and access to clean water is one of the most important aspects of maintaining sanitation. So we have to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. As you understand that water is getting scarce as well as polluted. The target includes ensuring universal and equitable access to safe, affordable drinking water, sanitation and hygiene for all, reducing pollution, increasing water use efficiency, and promoting participatory management of water and sanitation services. The seventh goal is clean energy. As you know, these days most of the energy that is being produced and utilized is tapping into the source of fossil fuels. Now these fossil fuels, they enhance the carbon emission that creates global warming and climate change on the planet Earth many folds. So in order to reduce our carbon footprints and in order to reduce the carbon emissions, energy utilization has to be minimized, and it also has to be switched over to clean energy resources, affordable and reliable modern energy resources. Say for example, we have solar power, we can also tap into nuclear energy, we can tap into power sources like biofuel, biodiesel, biogas, as well as wind energy. So clean energy sources have to be invested in. The 8th goal is decent work and economic growth. It promotes sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. That includes decent, dignified living conditions for workers in all sectors. So the target includes promoting sustained economic growth, improving resource efficiency in production and consumption, full and productive employment and decent work for all, eradicating forced and child labor and trafficking, protecting labor rights including those of migrant workers, and increasing access to financial services. Industry, innovation and infrastructure can help a lot, especially ICT, in technology transfer and in also investing in clean and green technology so that we have resilient infrastructure and sustainable industrialization is possible. The 10th goal is to reduce inequalities. Again, we have to look at the aspect of intergenerational equality and intragenerational equality that we had seen in the very definition of sustainable development. Equalities have to be reduced amongst countries, amongst peoples, amongst gender, as well as amongst the various classes. The 11th goal is having sustainable cities and communities, cities that are investing in reuse, recycle and reducing the unsustainable exhaustion of natural resources, utilization of natural resources, and basic services like housing, transport should be participatory, taking place on the basis of the involvement of the public as well as the government. The 12th goal is responsible consumption and production. Again, for this we have to hinge upon investing a lot upon green technology and upon resources of energy that are renewable and that are non-traditional. The 13th goal is of climate action. We all are suffering from the effects of global warming and climate change. Reducing emissions, making less use, implementation of the Green Climate Fund, all this is a collective action of the government as well as of the people, and it is important that we take climate action. Friends, we do see life above water, which is of course life that we live, but as you know, 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered underwater, and it is huge marine biodiversity as well as huge water resources that are there in the oceans. And because of global warming and climate change, ocean temperatures, coral reefs, and a lot of degradation is being seen. So life below water has to be taken care of. And then of course life on land, which includes our own life and which includes the entire biodiversity of the planet, who are our own co-passengers on this planet called the ship in the space Earth. The 16th goal is peace and justice, which can be brought by strong institutions, by having inclusive societies for sustainable development, by providing access to justice for all and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. And the last and the final goal is partnerships. This is where the role of teacher educators and the community called the pupil teacher is very, very emphasized and very, very important. The idea of sustainable development is not the inclusion of government actions or international actions. It is important that every human being takes care of its own environment and is mindful of these goals that we have set. Now, I am giving you an activity. In my next slide, I will be showing you a picture of the blue marble. Now, what is the blue marble? The blue marble is our home. It is our planet. It is the planet Earth, which is so far as we know, which is the only living planet. We have heard of UFOs. We speculate about life beyond the living planet, but so far there are no scientific evidences of life at any place in the entire space other than the planet Earth. Now, what is the blue marble? The blue marble is a picture of the planet Earth that was sent in 1972 by the spaceship Apollo 17. When the spaceship took place in its orbit, it clicked a picture of the planet in vast darkness, in limitless lifelessness. And this picture drove home to the consciousness of entire humanity the tininess, the infinite nature, and the limited quantity of resources that we have on the planet Earth. Now, your activity right now is to have a deep, long look at this blue marble, which is glistening with life-giving processes, but all on a very small, tiny dot, which is kind of a speck in the vastness of the universe. Look at it for one long moment and imagine that you, your community, your existence, your life, it is all dependent on this small, tiny marble. And not just this, the lives and the sustenance of all the future generations, your children and their children, depends on this. Now, close your eyes, take a notepad and write the names of 5 different things that you have used today since morning. You would have brushed your teeth, you would have combed your hair, you would have had a good breakfast, you would have read a newspaper, you would have drove from home to work. Just write the names of 5 things that you have picked up to use, and after that ponder upon this list. Is there any one single item that has come from anywhere other than this blue marble, this tiny blue marble? If not, then try to think of any item that you can get from anywhere else other than this blue marble. If you've been combing your hair, the plastic has all come from the hydrocarbons that are there in the oil wells. If you have had breakfast, your food has been grown in the fields. If you have brushed your teeth, your toothpaste hasn't been manufactured in factories out of scratch. They got the natural resources for doing it from somewhere on the crust of Earth. So this is your activity for today, and this, I hope, will increase you a lot in your consciousness about how limited the resources of the Earth are and how it is not possible for you and your students to go on utilizing them, abusing them for your own luxuries and for your own development, because development has to be sustainable, and if it is not, then very soon time will come when there will be no humanity and no life to be able to develop. Now, your role as an educator is very important, because only government action and international cooperation is not enough for ensuring sustainable development. Proper education for maintaining sustainability is important to develop responsible behavior. And because you have young students in your hands, you can impression their minds with these ethics, it is a very rewarding activity for the teacher educators to educate the students in education, that is ESD, which is called Education for Sustainable Development. Now, for ensuring sustainable development, there are certain ethics, because there is no alternative to integrating the aims of sustainability in morals and ethics of people. It has to be made culturally acceptable, and the behavior has to be awarded and rewarded, because otherwise irresponsible behavior should be socially denounced. Ecological and natural sensitivity is to be ingratiated with personal philosophies, religious instruction and family values. Now, there are some discussion points before we come to the end of this short lecture. Try to think of the concept of right to development, whether getting rich is only the privilege of the rich and whether the poor also have the right to improve their quality of lifestyles. Ponder upon the finite nature of natural resources, renewable and non-renewable resources. Ponder upon the definition as well as all the goals, the 17 SDGs 2015, the idea of education for sustainable development, and then try to conclude that environmental ethics are not one of the options for saving the environment and ensuring sustainable development. This is the only solution. So, in the next module, we will be looking at the many environmental issues that are caused by industrial development. I will be sharing with you some facts and figures, but all to educate and to motivate proper environmental ethics for the sake of ensuring sustainable development. Teachers can play a very important role in this by involving students in activities. This is the end of module 13, week 4, and you can go through the reading material, which is also extended by a bibliography as well as some references from where the facts and figures have been brought, not just to give you information, but to sensitize you and to educate you and to make you and to enable you to educate the students, the pupil, and involve them in the mega process of ensuring sustainable development by having environmental ethics. Thank you.